So we are back for the afternoon panel. Hello also those who are online. I hope also our other online speakers already start joining us, even though it's very early because we have mainly from United States and the others in the panel. But luckily also some on-site participants here still. Yeah, so I would like first to introduce our on-site speakers who are also RIXC residents at the moment here in Riga. So because of this European Media Art Residency platform, so they are here already for the second month and working on the piece which they will be introducing. So Agata KONARSKA has graduated from intermediate at the University of Fine Arts in Poznan and earned master's degree in 2023 in media art at the Academy of Fine Arts in Warsaw. And Jakub KOSECKI is a visual artist, musician, and curator. In 2019, he earned a bachelor's degree also in intermedia, and in 2022, he earned his master's degree in curating and theories of art, both at the University of the Arts in Poznan. Okay, so that's very briefly about your background. You can introduce more, especially with your artistic practice. Okay, welcome.
Thank you for the introduction. And hello, everyone. Yes, we are these two artists who have this pleasure to be residents here in the host gallery RIXC. And we thank you again for this opportunity. So yes, like as a techno-spiritual visionary, this is our first project together, and we touch the subject of spirituality and technology. And in this project, we try to reinterpretation and recycling of archaic cultural context and searching for new application for them. Our project, which we start doing here, called The Book of the Dead Virtual Gates, and it's really work in progress for now, but we want to show you the idea and concept of this work and some of like first visuals of this. So I just tell you a little bit about the project. In this particular project, aside from contemporary motifs, we are referring to themes from ancient Egypt, partially mediated through substance, Western magic traditions, and numerology. Virtual Gates is a project of an interactive multimedia installation that consists of sculpture elements, original control panel, and embedded game-like experience. And here in the right side, you can see the sketch of the frame to the installation. And here is two screens for the virtual parts.
Okay, so maybe I can say more about the idea of the project. So as Agata said before, we are not using directly motifs from ancient Egyptian mythology and culture, but most of those motifs are mediated by some occult and magic traditions that were cultivated in Western culture, actually. And all those like strange forms of pseudo religions that were created after ancient Egyptian culture were like assimilated to Hellenistic culture and Roman culture. And there are like few ideas that were present in Kemet, actually, which means ancient Egypt too. Is actually their name from their times for that culture and civilization. And those ideas were connected to administrative systems that we are like we can experience in our modern society. And basically those concepts were connected to administrative system that was based on concepts that were absolutely ritualized, like your name, like sacred name, which was as sort of like your ID or some sort of processes connected to stating power of pharaoh or some other or some other governors. And yeah, and the Heka, which is the ancient Egyptian magic in general, was sort of like concepts that was preceding Logos, that we know as like one of the most basic concepts of philosophy, Western philosophy, originally Greek, and the constructs of that Heka was sort of like spells that were connected and used in everyday life according to many standard procedures that, as we assume, for example, such procedure today would be like transferring from one country to another country, changing job, or some intimate practices like sex or changing partners or making some simple life choices. Yeah, and in our project, those blind gates that we or maybe the blind gates is actually, from what I know in English, the proper name is false doors. That's the like name of that architectural concept. But in Polish, there is a name called ślepe wrota, which means directly blind gates. And this is a sepulchral concept of pseudo doors that are doors to underworld. And in our project, when we think about magic connected to identity and administrated identity in the social system, we use it as sort of gateway to digitalize or digitalize your identity into some like stratified structure that is divided to many sub accounts and codes and profiles. And in this game-like experience, we are creating numerology is part of that engine, aside of the narrative part that we want to create some spell-like interactions or dialogues or way to act in that virtual world. Numerology is an sort of engine we want to create in programming scripts of that game that will transfer and process data that you will be entering during the game. And one of our theoretical inspirations is CCRU's hyperstitional theory of fiction that is idea that inspire us to reuse or recontextualize some ancient motifs from ancient cultures and to seek some sort of materialization of them or some sort of actualization of them and validation in our modern culture, and maybe perceiving our culture as not less irrational than ancient culture, actually.
And we also want to make the physical interfaces for the whole experience. And we start to doing some sketches. In the left side, you can see the keyboard, which is something like special cover polyprolactin. Yes, it is covered by sound and granite paint. In the next slide, we show you it closer. And the frame here in the right side. And this is this blind gate, like Kuba said. This is the sculpture installing part in mainly inspired by aforementioned concept in ancient sculptural architecture. So yeah, here is the video of the model.
Yeah, it's almost working prototype, and I think we have some more work with those sculpted elements. But in general, we until now we accomplished most of the set of that sculpture, and we will be connecting it with all the wiring.
Yes, and the idea of the game in this technical side, we just wanna tell you what the kind of tools we use. We based on the Unreal Engine 5 gaming engine, and now we start the collaboration with Ojar Saulits, who is the programmer from Latvia. But now we're living in Warsaw, so we are really happy that we find him. Yes, and also we use some AI tools like the Meshi to make some 3D object and Photoshop Beta to make some texture. Also Blender and 3D scanner. Just to making more objects and animate them. But we also use these physical tools, which we show you already. We use the polycaprolacton, which is very ecological plastic, yes?
Yes, mostly, but now I think we made some things that is not ecological anymore because we mix it with some chemical stuff.
But we also use the magic as a technology and as a tools.
I can explain that we use we treat magic as a technology because because it's I have approach like that to it because I don't feel that I have to believe in it in general, but if there are some set of symbols that are like some sort of technical ideas that are passing through time and they are sort of a change but not too much. Magical symbols in our culture work pretty similar.
No, we just try to be faster. Just show you a game structure. It will be 9 levels. And here is just a short description about them. Here is the intro, which is the location in the desert, and there is a river, look a little bit like a blood. You, as a gamer, find there the inflatable rover, who guide you to the journey into the dead.
And yeah, there are like few visual materials from some levels that we started to construct, and maybe the more important part is that first interaction we started to program, and it's more described maybe. There's the person who you meet in the casino in temple, in Egyptian like temples, where the casino is held actually, and you meet some sort of like mummy, but for now it's like a dummy for us, In general, it will be interaction that the person is asking you for your account balance, and out of that account balance, through that algorithm that is this theosophic reduction, it will transform it and compress to one digit that will have its own meaning, and other personal data will be transformed during the game like this. And here's some other stuff.
Thank you very much.
I really like how you work with especially the materials, so how you combine them. Also that you work with this more like symbolic, let's say, metaphoric things. And yeah, this is what I think, which also could be interesting. We definitely hope that we can exhibit one day next year sometime finally your work. But of course your project I see it's really big, so we should give you a little bit time, but we are very happy that you already are so clear about exactly how it will look and then what you will build. Yeah, so as definitely this topic I think would interest people also locally here. So for me, the question would be, and you work with digital media, and how have you been working also before with I don't know, with the ideas of building the world for the dead, and more with like ancient I don't know, esoteric even ideas. So so is it symbolic more important than like connecting something real, virtual or social? So how you would think, how you came up with this idea?
I think like working with art in general is esoteric because you work with symbolic capital in general. Capitalism is a bit esoteric too, and in general, like social structure is not rational fully. So there is always that problem.
No, it's not. The question was not about rational. Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah, but they were about the motives. So you take motives from ancient past and transform them today. That would be like, yeah.
Okay.
Your interest, for example.
We sometimes with Jakub we make the like ritual, like new rituals in our works in the past also. So maybe it's the next one, like the art piece,
ritual.
like a new ritual.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And that's why we based on these ancient rituals also.
Yeah. So you would say you explore some rituals and now you'll make
Yes.
them into game. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much. Okay.
I was curious, could you speak a little bit more about the connections between these blind doors and this kind of maybe transformation of death? And I guess maybe like what you see the connection is between the Book of the Dead and the blind doors. And I'm kind of, maybe the point that I'm most curious about is that this, the plural part of it, that it's not a blind door, it's that there's multiple. So is this something that is already kind of existing in mythology or occult, that this is kind of, there are multiple ways to kind of make this transformation, or because I feel like it's described differently across culture. So I'm just kind of curious about that.
The one thing is that it's maybe some sort of like metaphor for like the medium itself, like those blind gates are like screens. That's one thing, to some sort of reality that's let's say behind them or is from them. And other thing that maybe is answer to is that the Book of the Dead itself was one of the first mass distributed book that was directed to many people, and sometimes it was more personalized for some person, and this multiplicity you said is I think connected to the fact that there's like sort of it is game like too, like religious experience is sort of game like, because there are some rules and there is some sort of reality that should be like mediated through some things, artifacts or rituals or customs or words, even just maybe even words, it is enough.
Okay, so next presentation will be by Katherine MORIWAKI. I hope she's online.
I'm here. Hello.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Great. Hello. Good morning. Okay. So Katherine MORIWAKI is Associate Professor of Media Design in the School of Art, Media and Technology at Parsons School of Design in New York City. Katherine is an artist maker and interactive designer, and her work has been also exhibited and presented in international conferences, festivals, and museums around the world.
Conference for having me, and to the event organizers for all of their work. Today I'm going to talk about a project I've been working on titled Liminal in the context of an expanded shore, one enabled by information communication technology and the proliferation of sensors networked and embedded into places that were formerly wild. I'm Katherine MORIWAKI. I am an avid surfer and open water swimmer. I'm a lifelong ocean lover, compelled by an enduring attraction to the sea. I am also an associate professor of media design at Parsons School of Design, the Art and Design College of the New School University. I grew up in Southern California. This is Los Angeles County. And now I live and work in the boroughs of New York City. I cannot imagine living too far from the water. Like many people with similar tastes across time and space, I am drawn to the ocean and all the mystery it presents. In Western thinking, the beach and shoreline has historically been characterized as a liminal space, a transitional zone between the order and discipline of society and the untamed wilderness beyond. This is a depiction of Coney Island from 1898, of the People's Playground, as it was then called. In this depiction, the transition between land and sea is visible in the actions and behavior observed by bathers, engaged in recreation and sport in the water, in contrast to the decorum observed on land. In the history of New York City's recreational waters, the shoreline was a refuge for the booming industrial era working class, utilizing newly discovered leisure time and extra income. It is a practice that extends into the present day. And though I am using New York City public beaches as an example, this is a phenomenon observed around the world. It is important to note, however, the cultural specificity of such thinking. By contrast, many indigenous people make no separation between land and sea. Sea country is a term used to refer to open ocean, beaches, land, and fresh water on the coast. The ocean is a living entity with its own spirit. So we have the image of viewing the ocean from the shore, and this view is so evocative. We see echoes of this perspective in artworks such as landscapes by Paul Pfeiffer or the photography of Hiroshi Sugimoto's seascapes. In my own life, this view has remained a constant fixation, regardless of coastline, national borders, or geographical coordinates I happen to occupy. This has led to a fascination with the system of ocean buoys that surround U.S. maritime waters. NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, operates a system of ocean buoys, a subset of which comprise a buoy cam network, meaning this network of ocean buoys have cameras mounted onto them that take photographs of their surroundings at specific timed intervals. These particular buoys upload images typically every 10 minutes during daytime hours, providing a view of a horizon line that sits out in open ocean. They are an extended shore from which to view the sea, or a technologically facilitated view into parts of sea country that most people would never have access to. These buoys, which, as a part of a sensor network, essentially serve as a disciplinary force in conventionally wild space. Each buoy alone and in concert with others act to extend markers of civilization and neoliberal logic into the wild. This is especially interesting when one considers that the BuoyCam network and its representation is powered by Esri, a privately held company who dominates the GIS market with extensive educational and government partnerships. This view we are provided with is the confluence of information communication technology, privatized business interest, and the initiatives of the state. Anyhow, I became fascinated by this view, its elasticity across time and space, and its relationship to the views I could access from the shore with my own eyes, ensconced in the finite limits of my physical body occupying only one geographic location at any given time. This compression of time and space, afforded by the BuoyCam network, began an investigation into the view from these BuoyCams and their output. The images you see are from research into the specific image output from buoy 44065, currently offline, though originally placed at the mouth of New York Harbor. The thing you'll notice about these images is that they are taken with odd angles, under sometimes wildly divergent lighting conditions. There is an inability to locate a specific geographical coordinate using our own senses, instead relying on the GIS data and captured images driven by an underlying architecture provided by a private company like Esri to give this image context. I began to imagine each image, each buoy, beginning to represent every buoy and every image, indistinguishable as they are objectively distinct. So began the work of processing each of these images so that they could be straightened, aligned, and layered over each other. Interestingly, the method used to identify the horizon line in each photo was found in research papers that looked at the problem of horizon detection in autonomous marine vehicle design. Yet again, another agent of machine discipline applied to the unruly wilderness of the sea. After a process of extraction, analysis, correction, and processing, this was the end result. The pacing and specific implementation still need more work, but this output points towards a view that is as mediated and transitional as the technological infrastructures that make that view possible. I see bringing this view into contact with audiences and people who view the ocean as something separate and apart from us, as a compelling complication of the entangled systems of technology, industry, and the natural world. I want to thank research assistant Pepi Yang, who completed all the initial programming to extract and process images from the BuoyCam network. I'm also working with developer Mohammed Faisan Asgar to build upon her work. Lastly, this project will be posted to the following URL when completed at projectliminal.net. Thank you to the audience for your time and attention, and I look forward to answering any questions.
So I would like to find out a little bit more about the project and how you plan to work with it. So, what will be the final output of this research?
Oh, sure. Yeah. The final output, it's going to actually be a website essentially, an artifact that can be visited online. There's, still quite a bit that I think needs to be figured out in terms of the interface and presentation. That video too, it's really a compilation of the range of different images that were pulled from a specific buoy and looking at ways in which you can take those images, run operations on them, analyze them, and represent them. So that process is also still in progress as well. And the other consideration is looking at how to present those images, run those operations in real time, and actually have basically a live feed pulling directly from the BuoyCam network and a variety of different buoys that exist, because those buoys, they go online and offline depending on whatever kind of environmental conditions the buoys are subject to. For example, there was a very large storm here off the coast multiple large storms. It's hurricane season. Over here on the East Coast of the United States. And a number of the buoys that I was looking at and working with just went offline. They were damaged in storms and they stopped working. So there's a kind of interesting frame of thinking about, oh, okay, you have the system of buoys. They are constantly recording images. They're constantly being transmitted, but they're also online and offline at different times. And they really represent this kind of this inversion, this sort of like condensing of time and space amongst each other. And ideally, I would like to be able to represent that operating in real time. I think a website is a kind of ideal environment to be able to do that continuously. And then I also see it basically as as an installation that could be set up and instantiated for a specific space and time.
Okay, and if you make this live feed and real-time representation, are you after a longer time, would you like also to make, I don't know, time lapse or something, how to look back to all this data which you have been observing in real time?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I think that would be incredibly interesting. I think what's really fascinating is that the buoycam network itself does not actually store all those data. I mean, they may have them privately, which is actually one of the things that I really would like to do is get in touch with somebody over there at NOAA to find out if they're willing to share what happens to all that information. But at least the images that are accessible to the public, they actually have a finite period of time that they're stored for public access. And so this idea that the data, at least on the public facing end, it kind of disappears, which I find really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, an archive would be great because we would be pulling that. I mean, and the data, the amount of information that accumulates really quickly is just a little bit mind-boggling too, if you're monitoring.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so while Anna is preparing, I will introduce you with Anna. Anna is a lecturer in Riga Technical University, Liepāja Academy. She has also been a dean for past few years, and also our teaching partner there for quite already many years. Anna is also now studying in PhD program, Media Arts and Creative Technologies, which is a joint PhD program which I am director of. So this is for Media Arts and Creative Technologies in collaboration with RISEBA, Art University, between RISEBA University and Riga Technical University. But Anna also is very active in herself in curating and also carrying out her own research project.
Nice to see you all. Today I will talk about my recent project collaboration, social collaboration with Liepāja municipality to explore the biggest district of our little town, yet the least inhabited. And this is part of a Creative Europe project, Future Diverse Cities, where people and in collaboration with artists explore how to use so-called empty urban spaces. And you can visit it online, and there's a lot of resources already published on the project page. So Liepāja is part of biodiversity cluster. So our focus is to really explore the nature as cohabitant and the other species as active participants of these so-called empty spaces, as they are actually not empty. And but we must engage the local communities. So the first step to do that was to actually map what's there. Is it how empty are the places, and what's already there? And to do so, we started with sensory mappings of these territories around Europe. And to make a comment about map as a tool, I looked into psychogeographic research, and this quote by Katherine really inspired me that the map is actually kind of a tool to see and reach unforeseen destinations, to drawing new interpretations of existing territory. So the space Karosta, as you see on the map, it is quite large compared to all of the town. And it's also very green. It is covered with forests and wetlands and lakes, and the beach is also there, but it is also set by the state and the local municipality to be a special economic zone where companies are invited to build businesses with special tax tax system where they actually have to pay less tax when they make business there. So this showcases a new problem because of course this green territory is actually used already quite a lot by both inhabitants of the town and also visitors as nature destination, as recreative destination to go and explore this territory and spend free time there. And actually this territory has already been degraded by the economic action due to making these malls and piers that change the currents of the Baltic Sea, and thus the streams that changed have degraded the coastline of Karvasta, and we have actually lost the land. So what we are focusing on are these existing ecosystemic territories and diverse ecosystems of Karvasta as to oppose this economic narrative that is pushed towards this territory, to showcase that maybe it is not yet measured in money, but a lot of services are already explored by the local inhabitants and guests and actually used as services for a good life and well-being. So as you see, the local urban environment is quite colorful. It keeps the traces of the Russian imperial times and also Russia Soviet occupation buildings. It was a closed military territory, only opened since the 1994 for local inhabitants. So it is a kind of special zone. Which bears a lot of military infrastructure that is now falling apart and taken over by other species. For example, bat species that would otherwise not live in such territory. Then there are these Baltic jungles, these super wet forests where humans do not usually enter, only to trash, to just deliver trash there and dump their trash. So, and then there are these dry forests, which are used quite a lot as these walking pathways and park for recreation. And of course, the same applies to the beach, which is beautiful. And a lot of interest, of course, is driven by the falling military infrastructure and fortifications, which is also sometimes used by these extreme sports enthusiasts and also history enthusiasts. But of course, they are already quite dangerous to be in. Although it seems it only draws the interest, not draws people away. So to make these maps and explore all the sensory input of this environment, we also looked on the territory a bit away from this kind of Instagram perspective where the main focus is the visual one on the landscape, but we focused onto the other senses that are very much stimulated by being in this area. And to look, for example, in Palasma's work, Eyes of the Skin, he quite, as an architect, quite criticizes the Western eye-centric perspective on our surroundings and invites people to look into other senses like touch and smell, which makes much more intimate relationship, fosters much more intimate relationship to our surroundings than the visual, perception, which actually isolates and makes a greater distance between the subject and the surroundings. So we used the existing environment for a little nature concert hall, where the mix between the actual sounds of environment was mixing with the artificial sounds by the sound artist Katherine. There were also some wild cuisine interventions, which were quite popular by the guests of our artistic interventions. And we also used these left military bunkers as a little exhibition halls for some UV light art, where the inner sides and the sea were exposed. For example, the amber and the seaweed actually changes the color in this UV light and looks like some space remains. And we also explored the territory together with the students of art and design. And it was actually very interesting that, they are so used to audiovisual media that we had to have quite a discussion how to explore the environment, with the body that you can touch and see the traces of the environment, the textures that are left on your skin, for example. And some audio recordings were also made of these runes in this big seaside park and forest. And another part of the mapping was done together with young artists from Liepāja and local inhabitants to just ask some questions about how they feel the environment with their bodies. So the first question we asked is what is dangerous in this environment, because there's a lot of stigma about this district, as after it was open to local inhabitants, actually the people who were in debt, so socially, some outcast families were basically invited to live in this area. So it was a socially stigmatized area, and still some Liepāja inhabitants say that they don't go there to this area because it's so dangerous. So there was this question, which areas actually, do you feel are dangerous in here, and what is beautiful? And as you see on the map, the same areas actually that are physically dangerous, for example, as these military degrading infrastructure, are seen as also interesting and beautiful by the local inhabitants. And to engage also other sensory perceptions, we made these fermented cucumbers, which is a popular snack here, probably in all Eastern Europe, in a brine that represents the different salinity levels of the Baltic Sea, to make a discussion about how much do we understand the sea that is so entangled with our identity as Liepājans, as Karosta inhabitants. And it seems that nobody actually had thought about that the Baltic Sea has different salinity levels of the locals. And of course, they were a bit questioning if it's safe to eat cucumbers that are brined in seawater. But of course, it was just a fake seawater by just using the proportion of salt to ferment the cucumbers. But it was a good, usually food draws people's attention, and it was a good starting point about the discussion about how people feel in this area and what should be the future and the cohabitation with the other more than human inhabitants of this area. And to also start a discussion in these big social events about multisensory perception of the landscape. We made these little kind of silly boxes, quite popular also for the children, to explore the different ecosystems of Karuasta by the touch and to try to guess which box represents which kind of biome. And it's actually was quite difficult task. People are not used, probably. This was the easiest one, this dry forest guessing game. But some other ecosystems were quite hard for the people to guess, even the local ones. So the question, as this now we have done the mapping of the perception of the territory. The next step will be more of artist interventions and also a residency. So this is a little advertisement to follow the web page of the project, as we will publish a residency for artists to come and make some interspecies interventions and walks in this territory. And I just, as the last slide, I put some kind of ideas by the little local inhabitants, the children, what would they want to see here? And one must say that what they want is usually the entertainment. So we will need to make more kind of debate about how it is to cohabit with the existing participants of this so-called empty territory and park. So thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Eric here. Yeah, Karusta is a magical place for me because I was there a few times, and also when Carl Biersmark and what's her name again, your friend, Christina, yeah, we're doing a residency place in one of the Tsarist barracks, beautiful. And the place just, like, it's very difficult to describe if you haven't been there. And it's interesting that it's now getting greener. And in a way, it is an example of where certain terrains can go so that they actually start to contribute rather than, deteriorate our environment. And as you said, that's not put into figures. And so when I hear special economic zone or whatever they call it, like sounds like China, then I'm kind of wondering, how are you going to stop this?
It will be very difficult to stop this, as this is municipality sponsored project. This is why we begin with the discussions and involving the local community. And yeah, this is of course only part of this. We made a little also video interviews of just walking around Karuasta and asking people how do they perceive it, and all they said is green, 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 and that's yeah, talking about narratives about the place. They really, first issue they see is that, yeah, everybody sees Karuasta as this kind of monster. I don't want to go there. And on the next step will be for me and my colleague Maya to work with the local school. So hopefully, yeah, hopefully we can make some, yeah, nice children's stories that touch the minds and hearts of the bosses of the city to, yeah, not spoil the green zones there.
Maybe you could turn it into a special ecological.
Yeah, this could be.
Yeah, special ecologicals. Could be. Okay, thank you, Anna, very much. But we move on with a presentation by Elizabeth Berry and Shanhuan MANTON.
Yes, hello.
Hi, good to see you. Okay, Elizabeth Berry is Executive Director of metagov.org, a laboratory for digital self-governance. She is a world-leading expert in real-time systems for gathering, analyzing, and understanding what large groups of people think in their own words. Nice, great. So curious to hear. Shanhuan MANTON is an artist, researcher, and educator working and playing interdisciplinarily in interspecies inquiry. And as co-founder of Symbiotic Ecofabulatory, they facilitate periodic gatherings for interspecies attunement in Los Angeles, California.
Hi, I'm Shanhuan MANTON.
And I'm Liz Barry.
And this is Cultivating Symbiocracy, Prefiguring more than human involvement in governance. So we're working from the premise that stories make worlds and worlds make stories. Governance systems reflect the cosmologies of their implementers and vice versa. We must reincorporate more than human kin into our narratives, including them in our technology and governance systems to make it through these times of existential ecological crisis. When a cosmovision is based on zero-sum thinking, competition and supremacy become the underpinnings of governance systems based on coercion and force. When a cosmovision of non-zero-sum thinking is used, coexistence, resonance, and collective thriving become the underpinnings of governance systems based on cooperation and mutualism. Symbiocracy. What happens when we include more than human kin in our systems of collective decision-making? How might the soil microbes participate? The rainforest birds? A desert ecosystem? Symbiocracy has been proposed in a few different frameworks in recent years. Elizabeth Lockard, defining a governance system for spacefarers, proposes acknowledging the necessity of all living things to thrive, and a system based on both mutually beneficial relationships of symbiosis and social cohesion of democracy. Glenn Albrecht proposes rule for the earth by the representatives of the earth so that all living beings might live together, and notes the importance of relationships at all scales.
We will trace a few trajectories in human governance and interspecies relationships. Here's an upgrade to democracy that we love. In Taiwan Sunflower Movement of 2014, hundreds of thousands of citizens gathered outside Parliament and demonstrated to their elected officials how to properly deliberate and respond to the will of the public. Inspired and honestly outperformed, Taiwan's government institutionalized the use of digital, open source tools to help their nation set agendas together and write laws en masse, creating a new global standard for democracy. Strengthening democracy means including more and more people in decision-making. I've worked with open source software to support tens of thousands of people to speak and listen to each other, and come out understanding the ways we're different as well as the surprising points that we all agree on. Technology like this has the potential to include more than human beings. However, even when used among humans only, advanced technology can be politically problematic. For example, the custom GPT called Ion simulated Romanian citizens based on their online presences. Citizens were not allowed to opt out, nor restrict how their simulations replaced their actual participation in political processes. Incorporating more than human beings into existing political systems can reproduce these failures. Think of human representatives standing in for more than human beings in an assembly, or interpreting more than human activity into human language, or simulating more than human beings as AI avatars. While exciting, these representations are not politically legitimate because more than human beings are not reviewing them for accuracy, nor are they able to consent to being simulated, nor to the use of those simulations in political processes. We dream of a world where more than human beings are free and able to determine their own fates.
Looking to interspecies interactions, we can understand the cultivation of teosinte into corn as an intergenerational interspecies worlding process, where sense-making cultural technologies enabled mutually beneficial collaboration, while industrial agriculture uses technology to centralize control and dominate ecologies. We can also elucidate a trajectory in projects of more than human collaboration, from the shift to deeper attention and listening and communication efforts to the development of interspecies participatory design processes, such as ones performed by Deep Design Lab. How can we further understand, respond, and avoid false representation?
To explore the practical differences between human democracy and our imagination of symbiocracy, we reference a practitioner's definition of governance, created by the team at Sociocracy for All. Who decides? How do they decide? And how do they learn? Considering the question, who decides, the horizon of democracy supposes that more types of participation on more decisions will be extended to more people. However, humans persist as decision makers over the fates of land and the more than human community.
In articulating a horizon of symbiocracy, we posit all beings can be participants in decision-making processes, working with the concept of the holobiont, multi-species assemblages that exist across different scales, as well as Nigel Thrift's concept of infovorous geographies, how space itself becomes part of holobionts and their cognition. Regarding how to decide, the horizon of democracy supposes that deliberation produces better outcomes than voting alone, minority rights are strengthened, and social cohesion achieved amidst heterogeneity. But these extensions stop with humans.
On the horizon of symbiocracy, we foresee a growing commitment to understanding needs, desires, and resonances, that power reaches only as far as relationship, as in bioregionalism, and that decisions maintain and generate conditions conducive to life. Considering the question, how do they learn? The horizon of democracy includes popular education, a liberatory practice in understanding governance, and developing community-wide skills to change it. Policy decisions would have term limits, constructing a rhythm of adjustment and iteration, sunsetting and recreation. However, the ecosystems remain subjects for humans to make decisions about.
In symbiocracy, deliberation radically expands to respond to more than human beings and ecosystems, widening and deepening sense abilities, and extending and strengthening relational spheres. The learning process is a recursive process. While interaction with our more than human kin will happen concurrently with deliberation, implementing mechanisms to respond to more than human kin in governance systems will facilitate further multi-species participation and learning. To further clarify and cultivate the notion of symbiocracy, we need to counter tendencies to consolidate power. Symbiocracy is only possible with distributed power. It is a project of resituating humans within reciprocal collective decision-making processes of entangled holobionts, driven by resonant cellular pleasure. To close, a riff on Dr. Patricia Cation's words. The frameworks of governance based on competition and zero-sum thinking have failed to produce results to justify their supremacy. These logics do not produce satisfactory interfaces with the world's abounding beauty and mutualistic interactions. They construct a world entirely around pain and exploitation, a human exceptionalist world in which agency and freedom are limited to our biased form of intelligence. For a better approach to governance, it seems fruitful to turn towards frameworks rooted in mutual aid, gift economies, rear-worlding, rebellion, mutual perception, collective pleasure, and holobiont desires.
Okay, I have one question because, however, this festival is called Symbiotic Senses, for example, but in my own also research, I'm more at the moment trying to find out what in all these collective ecosystems actually has to do with some, like, let's say, individual intelligence, particularly in with plants intelligence. So there is also a bit, when I was preparing also this a concept for the symbiotic senses, I just love the wonderful the talk discussion which was in MIT about collective intelligence. So I was also at that time also teaching there, so I was there present. And Caroline Jones was saying, we finally should get rid of all individualism, be it whatever, you know, like in a genetical level or in a society. So, and finally start to think about what we collectively can do. But I'm Eastern European, and I come from this place where we have been forced to think collectively. Even worse, I come from occupied parts of Soviet Union, not of the dominated imperia, you know. So I come from Latvia, and then I was thinking, well, but and all my childhood, you know, so this collectivism, which completely destroyed any individual normal thinking, for me was, you know, is really like a drama of a childhood, let's say. So that's why how you think would be this healthy, because you I really love how you study all these systems. How you think this individual also still can be, you know, like confident enough, being aware of contributing for this symbiotic, which is more collective, maybe future vision or society. Yeah. How do you see these roles?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. I think for me, there's a part of understanding, you know, like individualism and collectivism as a sort of a spectrum. And when we think about the holobiont, like this notion that individuals are composed of all of the relationships of like multi-species, whether it's like your gut microbe or all the relationships you have with the beings around you, that's still like a very unique set of relationships. And like as an individual, you are the node of those relationships. So this is kind of thinking also to that notion of like, if we apply bioregionalism, like this notion of like governance of a system based on people who have a deep relationship within the context, to our individuals as well, like a sense of individuality, I think it brings up some interesting ways of like dealing with that, right? Where the collective it's not possible to have a collective that's like nation scale, where every being in that nation has the same desires and same needs. So there's still an understanding of like within a larger system, each individual component, each individual being has unique sets of relationships to tend to and unique needs. So there's a balancing act of like, you know, there are specific things that are within an individual or a specific holobiont that need to be addressed, and can't be like scaled out to everyone else.
I think we would love to dream with you and anyone else here who has strong formative experiences anywhere on that individual to collectivism spectrum, to understand what are those multi-species relationships that persisted despite what the dominant culture was doing to you. In me growing up as an American, what individualistic capitalism did to my sense of relationship with the world. Can we put that, you know, can we bring our experiences together as part of finding our way through to some kind of post-national condition where we have any chance of ecological survival?
Okay, yes, and here I think we just should look to the nature a bit more carefully, because these systems which are there, we think they are, yeah, they all behave the same, crop fields, but actually they don't. So, and this, even this, there is one biologist who got the Nobel Prize, and she's saying that she really needs also to go very closely to every maize, every plant, but when she is doing their maize studies, she really gets too familiar with it while they grow. And this is the only way how she can study, you know, so this, yeah, plant biology. So yeah, that's what I think. More attention, more care, more, yeah, to these differences. Yeah. Thank you so much for your contribution to this symbiotic thinking and towards the symbiotic future. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. See you there.
Esteban AGOSIN is a sound and electronic media artist, originally from Valparaiso, Chile. In 2024, he received a PhD in Digital Arts and Experimental Media, DXArts, okay, so at the University of Washington. So he lives and works in New York and is an assistant professor of Digital Arts and Media at Stony Brook University. His work engages with the question of how technology could provide a perspective to observe and understand our natural, social, and political environments. So, very welcome.
Hello, everyone. I will now present my current research called Molar Hybrid Landscapes. This research addresses fundamental questions. What role does technology play within the Anthropocene paradigm? How can we speculate about future possibilities by understanding and learning from nature's intelligence? This research investigates the use of organic materials in radio antenna construction, specifically focusing on handmade antennas using seawater electrolytes and salt crystal as electrical conductors. Why radio waves? According to radio artist Anna Fries, radio spectrum is a territory, a site-specific encounter, essentially an ecosystem involving humans, electromagnetic waves, and technology. This perspective on radio art opens up a profound conceptual, philosophical, and political idea. Despite being invisible and inaudible, the radio spectrum is considered a territory controlled by specific regulations, devices, technologies, and international agreements. Therefore, radio art transcends mere radio transmission. It involves critical engagement and experimental practice within the realm of electromagnetic waves. In this context, the universe of radio waves plays a vital role in the discussion of ecology. The radio spectrum, composed of hybrid signals from both natural and artificial phenomena, inhabits our environment and prompts questions about the composition of ecosystem, inviting us to explore new, expanded perspective on the interconnectedness of natural and technological realms. The ocean as an electrical territory. We are surrounded by electrical signals generated by human and natural phenomena, from activities in the ionosphere to Bluetooth and Wi-Fi signals manifesting in our surroundings. The ocean can be considered an electrical territory due to its various electrical phenomena. For instance, seawater acts as a conductor of electricity due to the presence of dissolved salts and minerals, enabled to the conduction of electrical currents and the propagation of electrical signals generated by marine life or geological process. Additionally, the ocean is subject to electromagnetic fields from sources such as the Earth's magnetic field, electrical storms, and the human-made electromagnetic radiation. These fields can influence even marine organisms. Furthermore, certain marine organisms such as electrical eels and some fish species generate and sense electrical signals for communication, navigation, and hunting. This notion of the ocean raised two primary reflections. Firstly, the possible technological development from understanding the logic, behavior, and ocean elements, and secondly, about the potential meanings in the dialogue between natural places with the technological apparatus, and how that coexistence can potentially reshape or extend the idea of ecosystem and ecology. Under that influence, I started to research about antennas based on seawater, considering both technical and conceptual aspects. After several failures and trying different models, this first prototype featured a 6-foot transparent acrylic pipe with seawater through a water pump. These setups allowed for the adjustment of the water column length, enable the tuning of the antenna to different resonant frequencies. The result was a site-specific installation that featured 4 handmade antennas based on seawater, using the electrolytes as an electrical conductor, and an Arduino-controlled automated water pump flows water up and down, adjusting the frequency at which the antenna is more efficient in picking up radio signal. The installation was displayed in a natural and wild setting, specifically South Beach at Discovery Park in Seattle. Within the installation, 14 speakers played sound from radio signals, with software-defined radio alongside natural audio recording. Machine listening AI analyzed the radio signal in real time and attempt to interpret them. For this proposal, I'm using a model called Audio Set Ontology, which is a large data set of more than 2 million sounds. We can recognize 500 categories. Since those radio signals are not part of the dataset, the AI consistently fails, mislabeling the sounds as natural phenomena such as a rain, water, animal, or snake. Taking this misinterpretation, the system downloads sound from radio applications, matching the AI's mislabeling with the audio file description from the repository. This generates fictional landscapes and speculative realities, juxtaposing the sound from the radio signal and those created by the AI. The fictional and hybrid landscape was a convergence of technological elements within the natural space: objects, sculptures, plastic, wire, speakers, computer, rocks, creatures, fluids, motors, and sensors. A juxtaposition of electricity and water, plastic and salt, copper and sand, sound and object, the inaudible and the invisible. This entanglement creates a tension between nature and human creation, prompting a discussion about the role of this human creation within the ecosystem. Are plastic, concrete, wires, or technology considered part of the ecology? As seawater technically works, it is capable of picking up signal, but it's not a real powerful technology, which raises question about the use of this technology in communication system, its range of action, and its efficiency, opening up question about the scale of things. During the 1970s, the term degrowth emerged as a political concept and as a critique of extensive development and proposing alternative approach to address the environmental crisis. In this sense, the growth also refers to the scale of things, moving from the global to the local, neighborhood, and community. In this sense, a seawater antenna and other artistic examples prove that the speculation of a different social and technological development, understanding, respecting, and learning from nature require imagining a different scale. The universe of radio waves represent an essential discussion about ecology in the era of the Anthropocene. The Hertzian world is a silent and invisible combination of signals from different sources. At the same time that they can be considered human waste or pollution, they are also the result of natural phenomena and coexist in an extended ecology, composting natural and human activity. The radio waves contain a fascinating paradox. At the same time that global government convention stratify them, it is a free territory, difficult to control, and has been a territory of hackers and spies, also curious people, partitionists, and amateurs, fascinating to hear what we cannot see. Radio waves are a territory that invite us to expand the sense of listening by exploring unheard and unreached places, extending the idea of ecology toward the entanglement of human, non-human, and natural phenomena, their activities and their signals. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So this, I like I like your idea of radio waves extending ecologies. Thank you, but how you, but yeah, can you describe a little bit? So because you do, I see you do both. You install antennas in environment, yeah, but you also are kind of exhibiting then your own work there as well. So how do you try to work with these radio waves, like receiving them and also like exhibiting or playing them back? Is it, did I understood correctly?
Yeah. I mean, basically, well, I'm designing, making, fabricating antennas based using seawater, replacing the copper wire through seawater. Trying to bring non-invasive technology to make technology. Sorry, non-invasive materials, resources to make new technologies. Then, well, yes, these apparatus are capable to pick signals from the environment, which depends where they are. They are going to be different. So, of course, in an open space, public space, like, for instance, that beach that I present my work, the antennas were able to pick signals from different places. And then I use speakers, of course, to transduce, these signals to sound. And basically it's a sound experience through this apparatus made by, in part, not totally, but in part with seawater, or using the seawater as electrical conductor.
Hey, thank you for a very inspiring lecture. I was listening to you, the distinction between audio signals and what you cannot see, of course, draws back directly to the very concept of acousmatics, and of course to Pythagoras, and having taught his disciples to just not to look at the musicians, the source of the musical production, so to say, but to have a whale to hide away and to concentrate on the very signal. That means that you're looking at a neutral space, while very often this is connected to the quality of the source itself disappearing, while in your case you have more a metonymic relationship to the whale, because you cannot distinguish if you're looking or if you're listening to the whale or you're listening to the musicians or the source behind the whale. So the question is in how far this blending of the media with the mediated is an intention, or is it a byproduct?
It's a great question. Well, the biggest, I would say, a reflection that I can bring about from your question is, well, probably acousmatic music is part of the music language. So there is a whole speech or way of making and construction of the narrative through sounds. In this case, I would say that the source is just there, and the apparatus is just a bridge between these signals that are living in our space and the listening experience. So in a way, I have some control of the thing that I'm getting, but most of the things are just happening. And this is one of the reasons why I really interest in this world that we cannot see, but is existing there. It's unpredictable, 100% unpredictable. You can stay in one place one and another day and the next day, and it's gonna be different. Every hour is gonna be different. And this unexpected experience is what, for me, is one of the most interesting characteristics in terms of a territory. Is living territory, is dynamic, is changing constantly. And and these technologies allow us to bring to us in different forms. I'm interested in sound, but you could potentially observe them through other kind of transduction process. So I'm not composing. I'm not making any order. I'm not prioritizing any signal through other. It's just, I'm just making a kind of bridge between this invisible, unreachable world and, well, some portion. Of course, I cannot get everything. This is not my intention, by the way, but it's not something that I can control. And this is, for me, the most interesting part, and make a big difference between acousmatic music and this kind of sound experiences.
Okay, so it's about sound experience. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, and now we are getting to our last presentation, which is also online. So it's the short video by YONCHA. She's assistant professor of art and painting area coordinator at Metropolitan State University, Denver. She has been born and raised in Wilmington, Delaware, and after earning her MFA at the University of Montana in 2019, Yeah. She was awarded a Fulbright Fellowship at the Natural Resources Institute, Finland, working with restorationists to make collaborative art science work about former peat extraction sites outside Oulu.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining for my artist talk. My name is YONCHA, and I'm joining you from Denver, Colorado. And I'm here to talk about Suan Laulu, or Song of the Swamp. This is a collaborative visual score that I've made with composer Hannah Seelan, programmer Brian Gibbons, and it was performed by the Tuira Chamber Choir in Oulu, Finland, sonifying data, we think, of about 160 years of peatland soil and made in collaboration with the peatland. So this grant is thanks to Fulbright Finland and started in 2019 when I spent a year as artist in residence at LUKE, or the Natural Resources Institute Finland. This is what it looks like when you try to bring your whole art studio for a year on a plane. And here's where I was living in Oulu. And here is the sphagnum moss, the plant that I was studying. And this is what it looks like in a conserved peatland site. If we zoom in a little further, we see that the top of this plant, the capitulum, is the only part that's actually alive. And the rest of the length of this moss forms this netted mat that can sometimes create an artificial water table. If we zoom in even further, we see these hyaline cells, which act like a sponge. It can absorb 20 times their weight in water. And so that means if you're a small tree or a shrub trying to grow on the peatland, if you grow large and heavy enough, you might drown yourself. So I was really fascinated that this plant has created an environment where mostly only it can survive and thrive, which reminds me of us humans. Peat is also a biofuel, and so this is what our sites looked like after the peat was extracted and burned for electricity and heat. It's a biofuel, but not a renewable one, so we're left with this acidic, wet desert. And I sampled some soil from these sites and got to use a hyperspectral camera. So instead of a regular camera giving us a two-dimensional shape made of pixels, this camera gives what is known as a data cube. So for every visible pixel, we also have a range of spectra that are not visible to the naked eye. And this shows you some of the information that you can get from those invisible data points. Here's our soil sample. And here's what it looks like in the analysis software. So if I click a pixel of this data, I get a graph like this. And I started thinking, if we can't see this information, what would happen if we could hear it? And so in the tradition of graphic notation and visual scores, I mapped this data out onto a traditional music stave. And so you can see the fertilized core sample that's been treated with peat ash, the byproduct from burning this industrially, and that's neutralized the soil, so we expect that things will be looking a little bit better there. And then the control sample on the bottom staff, and then tempo and volume and even these breath marks are all based on peatland data as well, like water level, water temperature, and aeration in the soil. So the breathing of the chorale as they sing this represents this sort of space in the soil and the respiration of the microbes in it. So I sent this unconventional notation to Hannah Seelan, you see pictured here, and she started transforming it into traditional music notation for this chorale. So some of her sketches are here. And then here's a little bit of the finished piece, which was performed about this time last year in the New Music October Festival in Oulu, Finland. So some of this is much more kind of conventional, and some of these hyperspectral data markings have been left and they're whistled by the choir. Here's the choir performing a similar set of sort of nature-inspired or collaborative pieces. And then the video work that you see is taking the image on the left and altering the order of the pixels based on the image on the right, the seed image, which is from our hyperspectral camera. And here's a little bit of the code written by Brian Gibbons using processing open source coding language. and a little bit of what it looks like at the beginning and the end of the piece as the sphagnum moss stem becomes visible. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of the day.